want to thank everybody for being with us here today, and a very special thank you for Secretary Kennedy coming here to the state of Texas. This is an issue that he and I have talked about many times before today, and he has been so excited about what Texas has done to step up and literally lead the nation in this movement that he has catalyzed to make America healthy again, and now Texas is doing its part to make Texas healthy again by the laws I'm signing today. Amen. We know a lot of work has gone into this process. These bills I'm signing today would not have been possible without the leadership of the Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick, without the Speaker, Dustin Burrows. Some of the key authors of this legislation. We have Senator Colcourse here, Representative Lacey Hull there, Senator Hughes, Senator Middleton, Representatives Gerdes, Van Dever, and Harris Davila. All of them and so many more play such a big role. And then all the people behind us. This is one of the most prolific bipartisan pieces of legislation that was passed this session. Doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, whatever the case may be, every legislator in Texas wants to see Texas to be put on a pathway to be healthier. And these laws that I'm signing today chart that pathway. Before I do get to those laws, however, we got to be clear, because there was a reason why the pathway opened up for Texas to even be able to go down this road. And that's because of the effort that Secretary Kennedy began before he was secretary to galvanize an entire country, if not galvanize the entire globe, about the necessity of everybody living healthier lives. So thank you, Secretary Kennedy, for what you've done to step up in that regard. So making Texas healthy, it's not complicated. It's the usual stuff: eating right, exercising, doing the things that will help to prevent illness. Chronic diseases such as obesity and diabetes are due in part to ultra-processed foods, poor nutrition, and lack of exercise. Senate Bill 25 that I'm about to sign by Senator Colcourse and Representative Hull is known as the Make Texas Healthy Again Act. It promotes healthier living for all Texans by embedding nutrition education across K through 12 schools, higher education, as well as among healthcare professionals. To support informed consumer choice, Senate Bill 25 requires clear labeling on packaged food products that contain ingredients that are banned in many other countries. In addition to Senate Bill 25, I'm going to sign Senate Bill 314 by Senator Hughes and Representative Harris Davila. It prohibits schools that participate in the National School Lunch and Breakfast programs from serving foods with additives that are linked to disease, diabetes, and obesity. Then there's Senate Bill 379 by Senator Middleton and Representative Gerdes. It prohibits SNAP benefits from being used to buy sweetened drinks and candy. Taxpayer dollars should not be used to fund chronic health problems in our state. To be clear, these are bipartisan laws that I'm proud to sign into effect. For you. Oh. Texas is on the pathway to being even more healthy going forward. Now, Secretary Kennedy.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Governor. I'm really happy to be here in Austin today for this historic occasion that puts Texas once again ahead of the nation in leadership. I've been to many, many states doing these kind of signings, Colorado to Arizona, Indiana to Iowa to Idaho to West Virginia, and many, many other states. But there are no states, and with the possible exception of Louisiana, that have done more far-reaching legislation than this. And there's no state that fought a harder battle to get here. So I want to thank all the legislatures, the Senator, I spoke to you at the height of the battle when you were taking incoming from everywhere. You were like in a foxhole praying for help. And I also want to recognize a couple of the national leaders here, Brigham Bueller, Jason Karp. I know Mark Hyman is supposed to be here today, and Kelly Means are all people who helped launch this movement several years ago, and have spent, in many cases, a lifetime trying to make this a reality. I got involved with this primarily because I came from a big family. I have 7 kids. I had 11 brothers and sisters. I had about 70 first cousins, and I never saw anybody with diabetes. I never knew anybody with a food allergy. I never knew anybody with autism. When I was a kid, and I know what a healthy child is supposed to look like. I'm looking at kids as I walk through the airports today, as I walk down the street, and I see these kids that are just overburdened with mitochondrial challenges, with inflammation. You can tell from their faces, from their body movements, and from their lack of social connection. And I know that that's not how our children are supposed to look. And when my uncle was president, I was a 10-year-old boy. The rate of diabetes in this country, of juvenile diabetes, was close to 0. The typical pediatrician would see one kid in a 40 or 50-year career. Today, our most recent data show that 38% of our teens are diabetic or pre-diabetic. And so 1 out of every 3 kids who walks through his office door now is at risk or has diabetes. The autism rates in this state now are 1 in 25. In 1970, the biggest epidemiological study in history was done. It was done in the state of Wisconsin, and they were looking specifically for autism, and they knew what it looked like. And they looked at 900,000 kids. And the rate at that time reported in that study and many other studies at that time was 0.7 per 10,000, so less than 1 in 10,000. Today, it's 1 in every 25 Texas kids. In California, which has the best collecting system, it's 1 in every 19 kids, 1 in every 12.5 boys. And so we're doing something to our children that is unprecedented in human history. We are now the sickest population in the world. We have the highest chronic disease burden of any country in the world. And during COVID, we had 16% of the COVID deaths in our country. We only have 4.2% of the world's population. So we did worse than any country in the world. And if you ask CDC, why did Americans do so badly? They say, well, it's not our fault. It's because Americans are so sick, which is their fault, by the way. And we have more chronic disease than any country in the world. And we know what it is, and we know it's the food that we're eating. It's environmental causes. Genes don't cause epidemics. They may provide a vulnerability, but you need an environmental toxin. And we know it's the food primarily that we're eating. About 25 years ago, there was 0 diabetes practically in China. Today, 51% of the adult population is diabetic or pre-diabetic. How did that happen? They built 20,000 fast food joints in China, and they began importing American processed food. And we know it's making us sick, and we owe it to our children to fix it, to make sure that they're not exposed to these kind of exposures. And one of the ways that we're going to do that is through the SNAP program that the governor just signed. Right now, we spend $405 million a day on food stamps. That's what the taxpayer is spending. 10% is going to sugar drinks. Another 8% is going to candies. So we are poisoning 60% of our kids who are getting food stamps. The poorest kids, the kids who can least afford to get sick. And we are poisoning them. We're giving them diabetes, and then we're paying for it up front with food stamps. We're paying for it again with Medicaid the rest of their lives. When my uncle was president, we spent zero on chronic disease in this country. That was our medical bill for chronic. There was not any treatments. And today we spend about $1.3 trillion a year. It's bankrupting us. It's a national security issue. One, because the economic hit to our nation makes us poorer, less able to defend ourselves, less powerful, less influential around the globe. But also, 8 out of 10 of American kids can no longer qualify for military service. What does that do to our country? There's a fertility issue. American teenagers today have 50% of the sperm count, 50% of the testosterone as a 65-year-old man. Our girls are hitting puberty 6 years early. And so we're doing something horrible to our children. And the reason you see these legislatures is, as the senator pointed out, this movement is real. The mothers don't want to tolerate it anymore. They see what we're doing to our kids, and they don't want it. And I am so happy that the leadership in this state stepped up, the governor and all these wonderful legislatures, to end this problem. I told President Trump that we are going to end the chronic disease epidemic. We can't do it from Washington. And I'll tell you what, in Washington, all these industries have been banging the door down to come into my office to make deals. And I'll give you one example. I mean, the insurance industry has come in, the 60 big tech companies are going to make our medical records now available to every American on a cell phone. The insurance companies came in and voluntarily ended pre-authorization so that people are going to be able to go to the hospital, go to your doctor's office, and know immediately before you leave that office whether your insurance is going to cover that injury or illness. But also the food companies are coming to us. 40% of the food manufacturers in this country have now agreed to remove the 9 synthetic petroleum-based dyes from their food. Why did they do that? They didn't do it because they're scared of me. They did it because they're scared of what's happening here in Texas today. Because they're very candid about that. They said, we can deal with any kind of certainty. The one thing we can't deal with is a patchwork of different legislation in all these different states. And they say to me, save us from that, whatever you do. So it is this, it's initiatives like this, it's the vision and the courage of this governor, of these legislatures, the persistence, the relentlessness of these legislatures to stand up to these industries and all the lobbyists who are flooding in and actually do something that is incredibly great for the people of Texas. You're not only making Texas healthy again, you're making America healthy again. So I want to thank Texas and the governor and all these legislatures for not only what you've done for the students of the Lone Star State, but also what you've done for all the people around our country who are going to benefit from this legislation. I do want to say that this is not the legislation that the governor just signed today. Is not the only MAHA legislation. Texas already banned lab meats. They've done bell-to-bell legislation. So they're, for cell phones, is absolutely critical. And so they're leading the nation, and I look forward to working with you for signing more and more of these bills in the future. Thank you, Governor Abbott.
Y'all, please, one more time, give it up for Secretary Kennedy. We'll take a few questions.
How long will it take to change some of these bigger problems that you're talking about? Obviously, a couple pieces of legislation won't change the trends that you talked about. How long do you anticipate it's going to take to see real results in some of that health data you were laying out?
We are going to see changes in the rates of many of the diseases before President Trump leaves office, dramatic changes in them. And we have announcements that are coming out in September on autism and, of changes that we're going to make that are going to dramatically impact the effects.
And how do you track the success of these bills? Do you have a mechanism in there to make sure that they're actually being applied properly?
Well, we're going to track it at CDC. We're actually doing, you saw it during COVID, you saw this data chaos from CDC. And the lack of transparency and the confusion and the deliberate confusion in many cases. And we're ending that now. So we're actually going to be able to gauge whether or not Americans are going to get healthy again. And this kind of legislation is going to show dramatic results very, very quickly.
Anybody else?
The House, a lot of them behind you, just passed a bill to legalize over-the-counter ivermectin here in the state. What are your thoughts on that bill, and do you see yourself trying to push for that on a federal level?
I think it's a really good bill. I think Americans should have the choice. One of the things, one of the policies of the federal government after President Trump left office, because as you remember, President Trump was in favor of ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. After he left office, there was an effort to shut off any therapy that was not vaccine related, and to put people into this funnel, not allow choices. And in doing that, the state got between this sacred relationship between doctors and their patients that has been true since Hippocrates. The obligation of a doctor is to treat their patient. That's why we have confidentiality. You can say whatever you want to the doctor, and he's not allowed to tell anybody. And that is because that relationship is sacred. He's treating you. He's not treating all of society. Whenever we tell doctors that their job is to no longer treat that patient, but to treat all of society, that's when we get this kind of medical tyranny that is brutal and savage and merciless and lethal. And we need to return our medical profession to its obligation, not serving state interests or state agendas or political agendas, but to treating and healing their patients.
Governor, talking about trials, now that this incident happened in Minneapolis, what is the message that you're having for the families that it happened in these difficult times that they are going through?
What happened today is horrific and must be stopped. And we got to make sure that we keep dangerous people off the streets.
Time for two more, folks.
Governor, on ivermectin, can you talk about your decision to add it to the agenda of this session since it hasn't been in the past special sessions?
Sure. Well, for one, what was done by both the House is Schaffner here?
Yep. Yes.
Where's she at? So,
Tall.
if I could just use a name, Representative Schaffner was the leader. What it takes to get a bill added after the original call is to show that you have the support in both the House and Senate to get it passed, and that's what Representative Schaffner did. And now the rest is history, because as I understand it, it passed out of the Texas House today. So fully expected, there's litigation. Obviously, there's ongoing litigation. We have every reason to believe we will prevail in that litigation. Those maps should go into effect very quickly, and it's going to result in 5 new Republicans elected to the United States House of Representatives.